This is the podcast where we talk about starting over after 30, facing your fears, chasing dreams, balancing it all, and prioritizing mental health. This is the key. This is something that I practice in dating that robs you of being happy. I used to be the biggest skeptic of you would not believe how many amazing things have happened. That has been the greatest habit that we've picked up. My own cheerleader that I never had. She says there are only two types of people. One of the recent struggles that I've had. Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of Salta's Pod, and today I want to talk about how I get over anxiety at 34 because it's one of the topics that were asked in my Q&A on Instagram. So if you want to ask questions, I usually open up Q&As on my stories, so tune in there. I thought about this question long and hard because this is a complex question and it requires a complex answer, and my first thought was that you need to go to your therapist, which I usually go to my therapist whenever I have anxiety, and anxiety is something that I have every now and then. The older I get, I guess the better I'm at navigating it, but also that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. That doesn't mean I don't have bad days and things like that. So when I was moving to the US 2 years ago, I had the biggest anxiety ever because everything was uncertain. I didn't know if I was going to find a place to live, if I'm going to run out of money. You know, a lot of the fears were just like multiplied. I had to talk to my therapist every week. And in fact, actually before going there and even applying to my acting school, I did not think about doing all of those things until my therapist asked me questions about like, where do I want to be? Like, what do I want to do ideally in my life? And that made me think about those things. But I also, again, like my fears would just stop me and paralyze me, and I would not be able to move forward. And she would gradually, slowly unfold me like an onion and help me to take actions. And I got very lucky with my therapist because she's kind of like my coach. And she not only validates a lot of my feelings, she gives me direction. She challenges my points of view. She widens my horizons. But, this is not the first therapist that I've talked to. She was the third one that I talked to. So I encourage you to take your time to find your perfect match, I would say, because it depends on people. It depends on their background. It depends on their views. Like someone can be a therapist, but they may not be a coach at the same time, So there's like a lot of factors that come into play, so you have to take your time. And in the meantime, therapy is not the only thing that you can do to get over anxiety. And I've actually come up with a whole list of things that you can do, but I just wanted to share one of the recent struggles that I've had with my journey, and I addressed that at my therapy session lately, and I was like, I'm starting to think too much of myself. So I got a little bit of success here and there, and I have a problem acknowledging it, and I have a problem, like I have that imposter syndrome basically. And she was like, well, you should think highly of yourself, and you should think that you earned this, and you did earn this. And she's like my biggest cheerleader too. And she says there are only two types of people, successful and lazy. So the fact that I've taken the effort, I've worked hard, I took actions to get to where I am, that defines me. That is something that I should be proud of, basically. One of the things that I came to conclusion years ago is that making myself happy is my own responsibility. It's not my partner's responsibility, it's not my family, it's not my friends, it's just me making sure I'm happy. A lot of the fears that I was addressing with my therapist are something like wanting more for myself, and if I want more for myself, would that take away from others? And apparently my joy and my success only inspired others and only helps others to see what else is possible. It inspires others to reach for more in their lives and to live at their highest potential. So I've learned, with the help of my therapist and with the help of affirmations, which I'm going to get to later, to shine as bright as I can and be the most joyful as I can, be the most abundant and happy and radiant, because that actually rubs off other people and they start becoming more happy. I get a lot of DMs in my Instagram that you're so positive, like you're so radiant, you're so cheerful all the time, and that's something that I've worked on. I guess I'm naturally kind of like positive in a sense, but I also force myself to focus on certain things, which I'm going to talk about later. I had fear of success, I had fear of failure, I had fear of unknown, and that kept me playing small. And a lot of the things I tackled with my therapist, but I'm also tackling every day because I always like it's natural for us to fall into those things and think like I was at my highest and now I'm gonna fail, or it's always like our mind and our thoughts always think the worst. And that's funny that I also learned that this is just genetic, that this is something that we have just to survive, because we better think the worst and be prepared for that than, be blissful and then something bad happens. So from like survival point of view, that's something good that nature instilled in us, but it's not something that helps us mentally. I actually learned a lot from Joe Dispenza recently, and I listened to one of his YouTube videos, and like I want to read some more books, but a lot of the things started making sense because I was kind of navigating that on my intuitive level. So I was kind of feeling that this is good, this is right for me, but he's like putting the exact definitions to things that I was feeling, and he says choose trust over fear. So a lot of the times we're scared of failure, we're scared of success, we're scared of the unknown, and he's like, trust, relax and trust. And that creates neural pathways, as he says. So I encourage you to listen to more of Joe Dispenza, but I'm going to share some of the quotes that I loved from him in this podcast. Another thing that I often go to, and maybe you don't have like all of the components of that, like spending time with your friends, spending time with your family, with your boyfriends. These are the things that help you have that sense of community, because we are communal people. And again, that goes back to our survival mechanisms. We cope with things better when we're part of a community, and that beats loneliness, and that has usually uplifting conversations. So usually my family, like I didn't have that many friends here in New York, and I didn't have my partner right away. So I would go to my family, or, video chats are available too. So however you can create that sense of community, that helps a lot. And another thing is like taking care of your physical body. So going to nature, exercising, meditating, quieting that chatter in your mind, especially when you exercise or meditate, that helps. But pursuing a hobby that you love. I picked up acting, and I consider that a hobby of mine, and I want to start playing piano. So those are things that maybe I want to pursue professionally, but I don't have to, but it's something that I'm interested in, and that is going to take my mind off of anxiety or negative things that maybe I have in my mind. Another thing that I started practicing is getting off social media. So usually after 10:30 p.m., I use this app called Opal that blocks my social media from 10:30 p.m. to 10:30 a.m. So I can go to bed early, and I can spend my mornings without looking at my phone or my social media, because we have to like protect our mind like a temple from negative news or some kind of bad thoughts or whatever it is on social media that affects our mental health. We have to protect ourselves from that, and fuel ourselves with all the positive things first in the morning, and do something that's good for us, and then maybe open up that social media. So that's something I started practicing recently, and I love it so much, and I recommend you to try that too. Another thing that I also practice for the past year at least is gratitude journal. We actually do this with my boyfriend every night. We say things that we're grateful for, and that has been the greatest habit that we've picked up. And there's also gratitude journal, which is 5-minute journal, and you can write in the mornings or maybe before getting up. You don't have to even write it. You just think about 3 things that you're grateful for, and that's going to start your day in the right mindset, and you'll be happy. You will start focusing on the right things, and you will open up yourself to receiving more. So once you say, I'm grateful for this, but I'm happy to have more. What you plant in your mind is what will grow. So basically, the more you start feeding into those like gratitudes and like positive feelings, the more they're going to start to happen. I like to do my affirmations when I actually listen to Louise Hay. I have a link to it in my highlights and Instagram, but and I'll put them in the notes in this podcast. But I just love waking up And without thinking, I just walk out of my apartment and walk for 20 minutes and listen to those affirmations. Or if I'm in a rush and I don't have time to go for a walk, I can put it while I'm doing my makeup. So those are the two meditative things that I love doing in the mornings. And affirmations are kind of like my own cheerleader that I never had. And sometimes they have phrases that I didn't even think about myself ever. And I was like, oh, this is a nice thing to associate myself with or define myself with. I just pick it up and start identifying with it, basically. I've started doing them actively for the past 2 months, and you would not believe how many amazing things have happened in the past 2 months. Like, first of all, my social media started growing. Like, I started meeting more people. There's more opportunities happening. And it's just like a lot of things that I wished for started happening. And I don't know if that's like because I started doing affirmations, I started noticing good things happening. I don't know. I don't care. As long as things work, I love it. But I used to be the biggest skeptic of affirmations. I used to be the biggest person laughing at them because I was like, yeah, you're going to think that you're a magnet of wealth and you're going to be instantly wealthy. That's not how it works, obviously. But everything starts from your mind. Everything starts from your thoughts. And once you start thinking about something, you start feeling like, for example, you're grateful for whatever you have in your life, and you start feeling grateful, and you start feeling good, and you start feeling more confident, and then you start being inspired, and then you're inspired, you take actions. And once you take actions, you get the results. That's kind of like easy and natural flow there. Obviously, we have positive thinking, but it's not just positive thinking. It is positive feelings after that, and it is positive words and actions. So all of those things have to align. Feelings, actions, thoughts, and words. When it comes to actions, those don't have to be too big. They can be small, imperfect actions, as I've been talking about on my social media. For example, I've been wanting to start reading more, and I started writing down it to my to-do list. And whenever I wake up, I look at my to-do list and I'm like, where can I find 30 minutes to read? That's a small thing, but I started incorporating it every day, and I started reading more, and I started feeling better about myself that I finally read more. And those actions come from like this positive mind, grateful mind, and they're inspired. So then you have that charge of energy where you can basically act upon. And then it feels like play. It feels fun to take those actions. Another thing that I practice a lot of the times is focusing on what I can control. For example, when I'm working on my social media, I don't think about how many views I'm going to get, how many followers I'm going to get. I think about how many videos I can produce. What can I control? Like how many good quality to the best of my ability I can produce every day. That's completely in my control, and that's what I can do. And you have the power of choice of your thoughts, of your feelings, and of your actions. For example, I love this affirmation which says, I choose to have an amazing day. So whatever happens, if you say that affirmation in the morning, whatever happens to you during the day, you're like, oh, but I chose to have an amazing day, so this is not going to affect me. And a lot of the times when you're feeling negative feelings, you should let yourself feel those, but then you don't need to drown in them, and you can just shift your focus to something positive or something good that happened that day. That also comes to focusing on what you want instead of focusing on what you don't want. This is also from Joe Dispenza. Focusing on what's possible instead of what's limiting you. So if you talk about what's lacking, what problems you have, what limitations you have, they're going to be multiplying and you're going to be drowning in them. But if you talk about possibilities, if you talk about something you're grateful for, if you talk about what you want and where you aspire to be, that's something where you can take action and get to. And then you see opportunities from there. So choose thoughts of abundance, love, possibility, and that creates a different reality. I don't like these words of like vibration, frequency. To me, it's like, if it's logical, for me, logical is that, you have the positive thought, then you feel grateful, and then you start being inspired to take action. That's perfectly logical. Another thing that I practice is zooming out. So whenever you have some kind of problem, anxiety, you zoom out to 5 years or 10 years from now, and you're like, would this matter in 5 or 10 years? Probably not. Or would this matter when I'm 90 years old? Because usually when you're 90 years old, you would think, oh, but I was perfect. Like, I had this body, I had all these opportunities. Why was I drowning in all that fear and negative thoughts. So zoom out, basically. Another thing that I like to think about is detaching from your expectations. For example, there's this phrase from Joe Dispenza again. He says, I'd love for this to happen, but I know whatever happens is for my greatest good. This is something that I practice in dating. So whenever I want something, I'll be like, oh, I'd love for this to happen, but it doesn't have to happen. I'd love to go to this restaurant, but we don't have to go. So you're expressing your wishes, but you're not demanding anything. And that creates the space for possibility, and you're not attached to the results. So this is perfect for anything in life, basically. Last but not least, don't put your happiness on hold. Whenever you're drowning in anxiety, that robs you of being happy. And the goal is to make yourself happy at every moment. I also love this phrase from Joe Dispenza, which says, life is inherently uncertain, and that uncertainty is actually a gift. And it's what makes life exciting and full of possibility. And so uncertainty is adventure. And I was like, this is the key, because I love being spontaneous. I love adventures. I love not knowing what's happening, but I couldn't link it to controlling, because we all obsess over controlling what's going to happen, knowing what's going to happen. We want certainty. But if we knew how things are going to turn out, it takes away all the excitement. It takes away all the growth. Instead of certainty, again, we have to trust. We have to trust that everything's going to work out. And if it's not, it's going to be a good lesson. So we got to let go of fear. We got to let go of controlling everything. And we got to trust and take actions and be adventurous. These are all the steps I take. And I think these are the things that I've incorporated into my life slowly, gradually over the years. And sometimes I forget about those things. Sometimes I remember them. But overall, I think I'm more peaceful and I believe in myself more. The biggest thing for me is gratitude and affirmations. Well, therapy also. So if you incorporate at least a couple of things out of this list, I'm sure you're going to see some results. Some of these things should be your daily practice, and slowly but gradually you will become more confident. When you take some actions, you'll see a little bit of blessings and you'll notice more moments of joy throughout the day. And then gradually and slowly you're going to see more and more of that, and you're going to have more and more opportunities in your life and less anxiety. Hope that helps. Thank you for listening. If you like this, please give a review, because I'm starting off new and this is very exciting and a little nerve-wracking for me. Let me know if there's any questions or any topics that I should cover next, and see you in my next episode.